Bruce Bowen. There is no getting around it. Bruce Bowen was one of the dirtiest players ever to play the game. His rugged play, verging on outrageous violence, came to the fore, particularly during his years playing for the San Antonio Spurs. At that time, he emerged as the hatchet man of one of the best NBA teams of this century. How dirty was Bowen? He is a perennial leader in the NBA all-time dirtiest player rankings. Bleacher Report ranked him first. But despite his lousy reputation, opinions are divided on Bowen. Yes, he has been involved in a lot of nasty plays, but Bruce was also a very gifted player. In addition, reporters loved him because the three-time NBA champion was always happy to talk to them and gave them great quotes. Bowen is a California boy from Fresno, but his childhood wasn't all surfing and sunshine. He told the Washington Post that his father had cashed checks he earned from delivering phone books to buy alcohol. Meanwhile, his mother once sold the family television to purchase a fix for crack cocaine. With two parents like that, Bowen understandably pulled away from his family. However, he considers a couple he met in church his actual parents. Indeed, Robert and Sandra Thrash gave Bruce the support he needed during his struggle years. The guard brought much anger and frustration from his upbringing onto the court. Combine that with a good deal of natural talent and an excellent player. But because Bowen was never a flashy player, he had to fight his way into the pros. The Cal State Fullerton grad was undrafted and spent years trying out for seemingly every team in the league. Then, finally, Pat Riley took a chance on him in Miami. But the coach who indeed saw greatness in the scrappy defender was Greg Popovich, the brilliant coach behind the San Antonio Spurs dynasty of the early 2000s. Throughout the years, Bowen never gave up. He said, "It's a situation where I've had many obstacles, and I have no time to cry for myself, worry, or complain. On the court, I'm an NBA player. That's enough incentive for me." He was never much of a scorer. In 14 NBA seasons, the guard averaged 6.1 points per game. Not that he had no offensive weapons. Bowen was particularly lethal with his short corner three-point shots. But still, the player had never even come close to a double-digit year. But his excellence is not in doubt. You see, there is no doubt that Bruce was one of the best defensive players of his generation. And as most vocal defenders insist that Bowen's game was about shutting down the opponent. However, he was by no means the San Antonio Spurs star in their prime years. That honor is reserved for marquee names like Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. However, it is hard to imagine the Texas team becoming so dominant without Bowen's phenomenal defense. Though often mentioned as the best defender in the entire league, Bowen never won the coveted NBA Defensive Player of the Year award. And some believe he is the best defensive player ever passed up for that award. But detractors point to the victims of his dirty plays. Some of them are incredibly memorable, bordering on infamy. His signature move was a particularly horrifying one. Bruce would slip his foot underneath opponents when they went up for a shot. The placement often appeared calculated to cause maximal physical harm. Several players suffered injuries, some severe when they came down in awkward positions. In March 2006, Bowen kicked legendary Sonics marksman Ray Allen in the back. The NBA looked at the tape and determined it was unacceptably violent behavior. They fined Bowen $10,000 for the infraction. The incident was all more unpleasant because the two players were friends. Like, the kind of friends that hang out together in the off-season. After the kick, the Sonic star told reporters, oddly enough, he used to be a friend of mine, and added for emphasis, used to. He said, "The ironic thing is Bruce and I used to hang out. Now I can't stand him. I understand the persona on the court that no one likes anybody, but what he does is sissy basketball." And Bruce had an odd way of treating his friends. On April 11, 2003, the Sonics played the Spurs, and Ray had a scorcher, as usual. With 32 points in the bag, Bowen threw an elbow at the sharpshooter and was ejected from the game. All that was before things got really bad. The Sonics beat the Spurs 106-102 in March 2006. The two players got tangled up and fell to the floor. Bowen took the opportunity to kick Allen in the back. The ref called a technical, and Ray had to be held back so he wouldn't retaliate. At the time, Bowen denied that he did it intentionally, but he did take responsibility and said, "It is what it is. I was wrong for what I did. The league has a decision on that. I have to deal with the consequences of my actions, and I do. I accept the consequences that come." But after he retired, the Spurs player later admitted that he kicked Allen on purpose. He explained that, while he usually did not hurt players intentionally, this was an exception. He pushed back against his reputation for malice in this way. "I understand that those comments come from rival fans, and sometimes they were right. But I never did it intentionally to hurt anyone. There was only one other time that I did it deliberately. I gave a kick to Ray Allen when he played in Seattle. When he was in front, I gave mine and then I thought, what did I just do? I regret a lot of that play. But in other situations, there is no repentance because there was no intent to injure or harm anyone. For example, sometimes rivals fell on my foot, and others were me falling over his, but there was no intent." Later that same year, in November, Bowen was involved in a play that injured Steve Francis. He put his foot underneath Steve Franchise as he came down from a shot. The Knicks point guard came down badly on his ankle and suffered an injury. This dirty little maneuver soon became Bowen's bread and butter. The reason Bruce loved doing this was that it wasn't illegal, although it absolutely should be. Instead, it's an unwritten rule that you never interfere with a player landing from a jump shot due to the apparent risk to their health. Walt Frazier, the great Knicks retired guard, was analyzing the games and opined that the move was intentional. Clyde, as he is known, noted that other players have called him out. Ray Allen, Carter with the Nets. The play led to an ankle injury that many believe curtailed his excellent form. He soon went from being a top star to early retirement. However, Francis admits that alcoholism was another problem that cut his career short. If anyone thought the incident with Francis had been an accident, our friend Bruce was determined to prove otherwise. A week later, the Spurs were playing the Knicks again, and Bowen decided to take out another team player using the same trick. The victim this time was shooting guard Jamal Crawford. Knicks coach Isaiah Thomas was outraged and went absolutely wild. Sure, Thomas is a known hothead, but his reaction was understandable. First, he soon drew a technical foul, shouting at Bowen. Then, according to reports, the coach encouraged his players to break his feet. At another point, Thomas reportedly threatened to break Bowen's neck. Thomas told reporters, "I thought Jamal went up to take the shot, and as he was coming down, Bruce's foot was under him, and if he were to come down on his foot, he could have broken his ankle or sprained his ankle, and he would have been out, just like Francis." Amari Stoudemire has terrible memories of playing against Bowen. After the game, Amari accused the Spurs of playing dirty. He told reporters, "He kicked me purposely in the back of my Achilles. I almost came down wrong and he almost caused an injury. He's known for doing that. So I hope the NBA and the commissioner take a look at that because it's definitely a dirty play." The Suns star admitted at the time he wasn't sure the move was intentional, but when he watched the tape later, he pressed replay and reviewed it 3 or 4 times. And there was no doubt about it. It was a purposeful kick to the Achilles, and he definitely tried to injure me. To put this in context, Amari was Phoenix's most dangerous scorer at the time. However, he had missed almost the entire previous season while undergoing 2 knee surgeries. He was pissed and said the Spurs are a dirty team. The play certainly looks terrible, but to be fair, NBA executives looked at the tape and determined that no disciplinary action was required. One of the most infuriating elements of his dirty play was that Bowen was such a naturally gifted defensive wizard that he didn't really have to resort to horrible measures like that. But if we are going to blame Bruce, let's also remember the man who allowed this violence to happen. San Antonio Spurs coach Greg Popovich is one of the most respected coaches in basketball. The 74-year-old coach is a 5-time champion and 3-time Coach of the Year. But he also unleashed Bowen and enabled his dark side. Popovich defended his attack dog when asked whether Bowen should be punished for what he did to Francis and Crawford. He said he was being unfairly singled out when other players had done the same thing. Did the league call them? Did they call all those guys Dirk Nowitzki landed on when he sprained his ankle the past 3-4 years? The answer is no. So why did they call Bruce? Because it's happened to him twice? Bruce guards an all-star every night. If he was doing what they were accusing him of doing, wouldn't it have happened a higher percentage of times? The league is just trying to cover its ass. I told Bruce, "You be Bruce Bowen. You're the best, expletive, defender in this league. You will not change the way you play defense." The quote speaks for itself. Popovich was happy to encourage this behavior as long as it helped the Spurs win. But the ultimate responsibility for his triumphs and dirty play remains Bowen's. Yet, the guard says he has no regrets. He told USA Today, "I stand by what I've done. There's nobody that I look to cause harm to. And I was an aggressive player. It wasn't just Vince Carter I had issues with. It wasn't just Ray Allen. It was everybody I was guarding because of who they are. They were all-stars. I was an aggressive individual. I understood the only way I had a fighter's chance was I had to be aggressive to them as well. So those that would think that that's dirty, it's your opinion. I know I'm not a dirty player." Whatever your opinion on Bowen, he certainly is one of the most memorable players in recent NBA history. His titles remain just as important a part of the story as the controversy.